Hello and welcome to another episode of App Stories. I'm John Voorhees, and I have Federico and Ticci with me. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well today. I want to talk to you about our latest experiments because this is the time of year, as we've talked about many times before, where we experiment a lot. But before we get to that, I do want to mention something about Claude skills that I discovered over the weekend. You know, we talked about this on an earlier episode, and I've been a big fan of Claude skills because it allows you to package together scripts and prompts in kind of a nice, tidy package where you can just kind of use them and stack them together and things like that. And it turns out there's a limit of 20, which is a real big bummer because I was making Claude skills that were very small and self-contained because since you can stack them one on top of the other, I thought it made a lot more sense to have the flexibility of having smaller units of automation. But it turns out no matter what subscription you're on with Anthropic, you're limited to 20 right now. I think because it's a beta feature, but I hope they expand that soon.
Yeah, 20 is not. It's not that many.
Not when you consider we have hundreds of shortcuts. I mean, that's how kind of I look at it. It's like, this is like, what if shortcuts, but you could only do 20 of them.
Yeah, that's not, especially when you start making smaller skills or skills that call other skills, you know.
Exactly.
When you start doing that sort of thing, it's easy to run into that limit, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be out of beta soon. I hope. I don't know. I kind of feel like there's a learning curve to skills. I tried making that is actually part of the experiments that I did myself. I tried making some of these skills that talk to web services that I use and actually run code instead of using MCP, for example. But there are so many issues with how the code environment of Claude works, and sometimes it doesn't connect to some services that use a specific version of SSL for authentication, for example. Other times I even ran into Claude looking at the skill and deciding, rather than running the script that was ready for Claude in a folder, to rewrite the script. And that is like non-deterministic automation 101, right?
Yeah, I sent to you, I think I sent you a conversation I had with Claude to that effect where it was like, I caught it. It was like, oh, let me write you a Python script. I'm like, don't write a Python script and use up all my tokens. You've already got a Python script. It was, it's not great that way. It also gets complicated when you have a lot of API keys and stuff you're trying to juggle with using skills. It kind of when you're in that area, it gets maybe easier just to write a Python script that you're running from a Mac instead of trying to run it inside a skill.
Yeah, I kind of wish if Anthropic is serious about skills as opposed to MCP, or maybe both will coexist. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wish that there was, first of all, like a keychain system where you can securely store things like API keys or stuff like that in a global environment in Claude that the code interpreter can securely access. But also there needs to be a better UI for putting together these skills. Like the fact that you cannot even replace a skill. If you have a folder on your computer and if you have a zip file on your computer, you have to delete the skill.
It will replace them now. I think they updated it. I think that they updated that. I've seen little changes here and there, but if you have a skill that's named the same or close to the same, it'll ask you if you want to replace it.
Interesting.
So you can do that. And they do now also, a lot of times when you build one, it'll download a .skill file, which is really just a zip. Yeah. Instead of, because initially when I first was experimenting, I was getting zip files back from Claude.
Now it gives you a .skill.
Now it gives you a .skill, which is their format, which is really just...
Which you can change to .zip on macOS, and it's going to open as a zip file in a folder.
Exactly. It's just a zip file by another name, basically.
Yeah, but these are I think these are part of the experiments that we tend to start doing now before the holiday season. Some of them will carry over into our holiday breaks, in addition to spending time with family or playing video games or doing all the things that we do. But we try to keep some of the tinkering on the side, some of the experiments on the side, and we carry those over into the new year when the new season begins in January. So I figured, this is a classic App Stories episode where we can just round robin some of the things that we've been playing around with, some of the experiments that we've done. And I wanted to start. I talked about this before in AppStories Plus for subscribers. We are going to talk some more in AppStories Plus today in the post show about automation and the changing role of shortcuts and classic automation in our workflows. I have spent more time with the web app that John doesn't really like called TypingMind. Now, John, we know that John doesn't like web apps, first of all.
Oh, come on. I use a lot of web apps, and I'm not anti-web app, but I do find TypingMind's UI to be a little cluttered and messy.
There's a lot going on, especially.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot of
those tabs.
There's a lot of overlap when it comes to like plugins and agents and global settings and things like that.
Yeah, it's a little hard when it's one of those places you go to that app and you think, oh man, where do I even start? Because it's a little bit, it's got an intimidation and learning curve factor to it. I think.
Yeah. You should see some of the other things that some of these services that because I have done a lot of research about this, like running your own AI, whether it's local or an open source model hosted somewhere else. I have done a lot of research, and there's a really popular. I didn't even bring this up with you because I didn't want to waste your time, and it was a short-lived experiment. The really popular way to run these models is with this open source application that you need to host yourself or host somewhere else called Open Web UI.
Okay.
It's like, imagine TypingMind, but like 10x more confusing.
Yeah.
And I hosted this for like 2 days on a server from a company in Switzerland or Germany. I don't even remember. And it was so confusing. I was like, I tried this for 48 hours and I'm done. And I went back to TypingMind.
Okay.
I have played around with TypingMind right now. This is sort of like my test bed for open source models. We have seen a lot of progress from open source Chinese models. And I'm going to go through my list. Right now, I am experimenting with 4, but really there are 3, in the sense that Kimi K2, this has been my go-to for the past few weeks. Kimi K2 now comes in 2 versions. There's a traditional Kimi K2 and a Kimi K2 thinking. So they introduced a reasoning model. My favorite one continues to be Kimi K2 on Grok with a Q. It's really fast. Sometimes I can even hit like 400 tokens per second. It's incredibly fast. This is a non-thinking version of Kimi K2, which is not as great as, I gotta say, the new Kimi K2 thinking. I am testing via the official Moonshot API. It's not fast. It's like 60 to 70 tokens per second, which is still faster than Claude.
I was going to ask how that compares to like Sonnet 4.5.
Yeah, Sonnet, it's like 40 tokens per second. And when you hit like the peak hours, like I don't know about you, but my Claude gets real slow during the day.
Sometimes you see literally like one letter at a time showing up.
Like that. That's like 10 tokens per second or something.
Yeah.
So Kimi K2 thinking is faster than Claude, not as fast as Grok. The Grok infrastructure with the, what are they called? The LPUs that they have, custom chips for running AI really fast. But Kimi K2 thinking surprised me yesterday. I was doing some research on a topic, and on its own, when it realized that one of the services that I wanted to use was not working, it automatically decided to reroute the research to another set of tools. Like that's the sort of like agentic behavior that Kimi K2 thinking has, which is really impressive. And it reasons through every step. It's like, imagine an open source version of Claude that you can host yourself in theory. I really anticipated the moment where Kimi K2 thinking gets up and running on Grok. That should be interesting to see.
Yeah, is Grok the only place where the regular traditional Kimi K2 is available? You can't do Cerberus?
It's available on other, it's not on Cerebrus, unfortunately.
Cerebrus.
It's not there, but I'm going to talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Grok is your best option for Kimi K2 right now. And hopefully they'll put up the thinking version as well. I have also been testing Minimax M2. This is another Chinese model. Also a model I wrote about this on my stories, very similar to Claude, supports interleaved thinking steps in that. So basically when it's doing a task, when it's generating a response, it thinks in between the responses. So it's got this intermixed thinking blocks. And I've also been using this via the official API. Not fast. I would say I don't like it as much as I like Kimi K2.
Okay.
I have been really impressed with the latest addition to the Cerebras infrastructure, and that would be GLM 4.6 by ZAI. This is another Chinese lab, just called Z.ai. I think the full word is Zipu. I'm not sure the proper way to pronounce it. I'm sorry. GLM 4.6 is a really good coding model. It's not a thing. It's not a reasoning model, but it's running on Cerebras at like 1,700 tokens per second.
Yeah, that's wild.
And that has become my go-to vibe coding model for drafts actions. In that, it does not one-shot a thing like Claude can, for example. But
drafts automations are based on JavaScript, right?
Yes, sir. Pure JavaScript with some drafts specific libraries and modules.
Right.
Claude tends to one-shot an action or a script, most of the time.
Yeah.
And maybe GLM 4.6 doesn't. But because it's running so fast.
Yeah, you're just iterating over and over.
The iteration that it allows you to do. It's like like when I see Claude doing like line by line in a script, Cerebras just spits out like a script in a second. It's wild.
Don't even mention the fact that if you're on like a pro account, which is what I'm doing still, not only are you iterating slowly between requests because of the speed of the tokens coming in, but once you cap out on your tokens, you're going to take a break for 4 hours before you can get to the next stage of your project.
Yeah, here you can just vibe code away, and
nice.
So really, my main two open source models right now are Kimi K2, especially the non-thinking one because it's so fast and still very good at calling external tools. I built myself a collection of plugins.
Give me an example or two of some of the plugins you're building for yourself in drafts. Like what kinds of things are you building?
I tend to build plugins for a couple of reasons. The first one is that TypingMind does not support external connectors yet. They're working on it. They posted a teaser, and you will be able to connect to Notion, Gmail, all these connectors, just like you can in Claude. So
using drafts as an intermediary to move the data back and forth, is that kind of what's happening?
No. So drafts I just use as my note-taking app. So those are my drafts actions are things like for Markdown, for Notion, for exporting documents. Those are like separate. The plugins that I built in TypingMind, I built them because TypingMind didn't have easy-to-use connectors. That will change soon. But also, I've mostly been building plugins for services that don't have MCP at all. Like Readwise Reader, for example, doesn't have an MCP server.
Right.
So I built a plugin that uses the API. And in TypingMind, I can just, now I can save URLs. I can search my Readwise Reader library. I can export, highlights from there. Like I just have a way to communicate with natural language with my Readwise Reader.
That's nice.
And
that's something they should really build into Readwise Reader. I'm surprised. All they have right now is the ability to use AI to do things like summarize and one article at a time, which I don't really like. I mean, I'd like to query my entire database of things that I've saved.
That's what I can do now. I was just testing it today. Like, how many articles do I have saved from Mac Stories? And it runs through, and it's very fast. But right now, these are my two non-Claude models, GLM 4.6 and Kimi K2.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. Well, So I'm going to share a couple of different experiments I've been doing. I mean, some of it is AI based, but I'm going to start with apps because I've been using an app called Bloom, which I did recently mention. Bloom is a Finder replacement,
Hmm.
and
You're brave,
it's
brave man.
it's super actively developed. And I've used Forklift in the past, which I like, but there were a couple of friction points. I had some issues with it properly allowing me to manage Google Drive files, for instance. Like at one point, this may have cleared up, but at one
Hmm.
point I was having trouble deleting a file that someone else had shared into a folder that was a joint folder. And Bloom doesn't have an issue with that at all. The main thing I've been using it for is, well, there's a couple of things. One is that it has very easy ways to set up multi-pane views
Hmm.
everywhere from just a side by side to a 4x4 to a three pane setup, and that can come in really handy when I'm managing a lot of files, moving them around for podcast production. The other thing that's pretty nice about it is you can set up those views with particular folders and define them as workspaces. So you could have a workspace that is your writing workspace, and maybe it has, where you keep your screenshots and where you have your markdown files. Or you can do what I do, which is with some of the podcast stuff. It'll be like, oh, here's the inbox where
Hmm.
everybody's sending me their files. Here's where I'm going to put it to process it, and here's kind of like the third folder with the final work product that's going to get uploaded to YouTube or Libsyn or wherever. So it's a really nice app. I've been really happy with it so far. I haven't gone as far as to try to. I think I can essentially force the Mac to open Bloom instead of Finder when it does, when it automatically opens something from Safari, say, or some other app. Haven't done that yet. Still kind of feeling my way around it, but so far it's been very solid, and I've really enjoyed using it. So I'm going to keep doing that and exploring some of the other features it has. I believe that you can also run some terminal commands and things like that directly from within Bloom as well. That's the
Hmm.
kind of thing that I haven't really messed around with too much yet because I haven't really had a need for it. But yeah, there's a lot you can do there. The other thing, this is a surprise for you. I've been messing around with
Okay.
Superhuman again, Federico.
Oh,
I've been
now he's seen the light. Okay.
yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Jury's still out. Jury's still out. Shortwave, we were both on it for a while, and I do like shortwave. I think the thing about shortwave that I like the most, that I've missed the most going to Superhuman, is the ability. There's two things, I guess. First one is they have this concept called bundles in
Hmm.
shortwave where you can bundle together sets of emails from like the same company or the same domain, so that say you go into your unimportant email folder or whatever it's called, your other folder, and you have a whole bunch of things from, I don't know, some company, so sending you, like 1X Player, which is the handheld manufacturer who sends out like 3 emails a day.
Yeah.
And I finally
Oh my
unsubscribed
God,
to,
that's true.
because
Yeah.
they were driving me insane with their 1X Fly. But yeah, I mean, it would bundle those together, and then you could, like, if you're like, I just don't want to deal with 1X Player today, you can just hit delete, and there'd be like 5 emails gone all at once.
Yeah.
There's not really that same sort of thing in Superhuman. It's more of a label based
Hmm.
approach, which is a very Gmail centric kind of thing, which is fine. And I've been enjoy what I've enjoyed. I think the most about Superhuman is the keyboard aspect of it. How
Hmm.
quickly I can on a Mac go through and archive or delete stuff.
Hmm.
I don't like that deleting an email. This is very specific, but I don't like that email is deleted with shift 3, the pound symbol, because that's a 2 key combination, and I'd like to be make it easier for me to delete my email. And so what I did is I made it a hotkey on my Logitech Creative Console, so I can,
Why don't you just archive everything?
because search becomes a problem. I know they have good search on Superhuman, but you know what? I feel like I need to at least make a rough cut and make sure that the stuff that is archived is at least stuff that's
Okay.
worthy of saving even a little bit. Like, I save a lot. I archive a lot, but I get a lot of junk too. I don't want to save all these, discount codes for Black Friday. I don't want that stuff popping up.
Okay.
Like if
Sure.
I have 10 emails with discount codes and offers from JSaw, and then they email me about a sponsorship, right? I don't want to have all of those promotional emails get mixed in with the emails from actual people at the company. That's one of the things. That's probably something that you've not run across very often, but it happens, But yeah, I've been enjoying it. I mean, it's good. I still feel like I've never yet met an email app that I really am 100% happy with, and I think that that's probably going to be true of Superhuman too. But it does have some good tools for moving quickly through email.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm pleased to hear this. Finally, maybe if you stick with it, let me know so I can share Superhuman links with you.
Oh yeah. Well, you can for the time being. You can at least.
Okay.
I'll let you know if I drop off.
Okay. All right. I want to mention some services that I've been testing lately. Most of them are integrated with different AIs, and they're just a plug and play in the sense that I can use them with Claude, I can use them in TypingMind, and all of these were new to me. So this is part of a bigger topic where like in using these AI tools, I'm actually learning a lot of things, which is it's a fun thing to be learning, about a lot of different startups, a lot of different tools. I'm just gonna mention these. Firecrawl. This is a much better provider for Claude. If you need to fetch the contents of a web page, if you need to scrape a web page, Firecrawl is much better than Claude's built-in web fetch tool. Like,
okay.
I actually asked Claude. I told it take this MacStories article and fetch it via your own tool and Firecrawl, and then be honest and let me know which one is the better output. And Claude said, I actually prefer Firecrawl because it's everything is better organized in Markdown. And,
I think WebFetch is a Python thing, is what Claude's using.
And I actually got Claude to output the results of both. And the web fetch was like a mess. It was a jumbled mess of I think they're using some really basic, beautiful soup in Python to parse web pages. Whereas Firecrawl, it gives you a really nicely formatted Markdown version of a page. You can use this with AI. You can use this with shortcuts. They have an API. And if you need a really good parser for web pages to give you Markdown, really well done. They have a credits system.
Have you tried it with any JavaScript heavy sites that aren't really like articles, like maybe the Apple homepage or something like that?
Not yet, but I can try.
I'd be just surprised. I'd just be interested to know what it gets you. I mean, a lot of the times,
the Apple homepage.
Yeah, yeah, which is mostly images and a lot of animations and that kind of stuff.
I can ask right now. Fetch this with Firecrawl and give me the Markdown output.
So Firecrawl is very specifically a Markdown output type of tool.
Well, they extract the plain text and they tend to favor Markdown. I also want to mention Parallel. Parallel is
this is one I've tried. Yeah,
this is a new startup, and there's a whole bunch of these startups on the rise, like alternative search engines built for LLMs. There's Exa, which we mentioned before. Turns out there's a whole bunch of companies like this. John, I gotta tell you, the Apple homepage is a pretty nice Markdown document. That I'm gonna send to you. It's you can see. I think it did a pretty good job. Getting the Markdown of Apple.com.
It did. Yeah. It did. It does a nice job of. It's got all the headers and it's got the images. This is good. Yeah.
Parallel is another search engine built for LLMs. There's actually, and it actually does a bit more. They support 3 modes. So they have search, extract, which is similar to Firecrawl, but I still prefer Firecrawl, and deep research. And I gotta tell you, I tested Parallel First of all, I signed up and they gave me $80 for free.
Same.
In credits. Nice.
Federico, they gave me $78.66 of credit.
Nice. Okay.
I have no idea why.
No idea why. And the search is pretty good. I would say that the search is better than Exa, better than Perplexity search. I tested it with Claude. It got some really good timely results for recent news. A really good search engine for LLMs. The deep research is fascinating. You can kick off a deep research task remotely. It starts running in the parallel cloud. They give you a URL and an ID for the deep research task. You can go there. You can check the progress.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to, depending on the complexity of the query, it may run for up to 45 minutes.
I know, I saw that.
It scans thousands of web pages and it gives you a report at the end. I found these reports to be much better sourced than Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT. It's really, really good. And I configured the parallel web app so that when it's done, it sends me a notification via pushover using
Nice.
Zapier. So we mentioned pushover before. And so this is something that I set up a few days ago. And I did some research. I have this like test evaluations that I do all the time. Like do research and give me a list of modern markdown editors for iOS that supports user-created plugins. There are really 3 of them, but I like to see how many AIs fail at the job. For example, Claude told me about editorial as if it was like a new thing. Turns out you markdown text editors with plugins, you really have 3 or 4 options. You have Obsidian, Drafts, Noteplan, and there's another one that I don't remember the name. All the other ones are discontinued. So it's really nice to see the different AIs fail. Because I personally...
That's a good question. I really like that one.
I personally know this information, right? Because I really follow this space. And so it's a good test to see, I treat them like interns, basically. Like, do this research and come back to me. I want to see what you gather. And Parallel did an excellent job, I got to say.
That's cool. I like it. I was reading through their blog over the weekend, and their whole thing is they say that their methodology of doing the search uses fewer AI tokens and it's faster as a result. Now, the deep research does take a while because it is doing a lot of hitting a lot of web pages before it gets back to you. But this is the kind of thing where I think a lot about like why is it that Google doesn't have these tools? I mean, it's because they're an ad-based business, and this is searching the internet without ads, I suppose. But it is pretty, if you do heavy duty internet research, there's a lot of potential for these kind of tools.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the other, did I have anything else? Firecrawl, Parallel. These are the 2 that I've tested. And also Firecrawl, when you sign up, you get 500 credits for free. And so all of these things, you can just sign up with your Google account, get some free credits and take them for a spin, and you don't have to pay.
So this reminds me all very much of the early web, when no matter what you signed up for, you got incredibly huge credits for everything, like, I don't know, groceries or dog food or whatever you were buying on these services, and that all went away when we had the web crash, and that I think that's all going to go away too with the with AI if the bubble pops. But for right now, you can get a fair amount of service for almost nothing. And if you're not an enterprise, if you're just an individual using these services, it takes a long time to get through some of these credits because
just use them for free.
Yeah, it's because it's billing you in cents and single-digit dollars at the most in most cases. So yeah, very good. I mean, I'll close out by mentioning that for me, I've been continuing primarily working in Claude with Claude Code in the terminal, building Python scripts and connecting them to Notion, because I've really found that one of the things that has always bothered me about spreadsheets is they're all so designed for numbers, and we don't deal with numbers a lot. We do deal with numbers, but we deal with text more than we deal with numbers. And what I like about Notion's databases is they're really flexible in terms of the kind of data that you put in each field, URLs and images and files and text and numbers, all kinds of stuff. And with a good Python script, I've been able to do all kinds of things. I've already mentioned before, and especially in the Pro Show, I mentioned some of the stuff I've been doing with Amazon's. They call it, I think they call it the Purchase API. It's their API that shows you what all the deals happen to be at any one time at Amazon. And I started off with an analysis of Black Friday deals because Black Friday, the spreadsheet that Amazon offers to people in their affiliate program is like 450 megabytes. It's literally a million rows of data that you could never analyze on your own. But using Python and coming up with a multi-factor filter, like I filtered out used items, I filtered out all kinds of duplicates, things that were like just differences by color, and then I did a ranking system based on whether it was something we covered on Mac Stories before, what the amount of the magnitude of the discount was, all kinds of different scoring systems that I came up with and run through in a Python script, and then it just populates straight into Notion. And I took that ranking algorithm that I had developed myself, and I built it then into a daily Python script that runs at 4 a.m. every day on my Mac Studio. And when I come down to my office in the morning, once I get up, there it is, and it's replaced all of the expired deals, indicated which ones are new, and then ranked them all. And so I can look at that database and I know exactly what I've got there and what's good for putting on Mac Stories deals. So this is that was all an experiment using an API that can return tons of data just to get my feet wet and really understand the kinds of things that I can do combining Python and Notion. And I expect to do a lot more of that in the future with other APIs. It was just that this was a good place to sort of experiment with it and actually have a little benefit for the site as well along the way.
Yeah, that's actually stuff that makes us money. So that is a
it's a good thing, right?
It's a good thing. The final thing that I will say, no, a couple. First of all, I built myself a little drafts action that that basically acts as a quick way to go from something that I'm reading in Readwise Reader to a linked post on Mac Stories.
Oh, that's nice.
It finds all the articles that I have in my Readwise Reader queue that are tagged with the tag linked. And from there, it fetches all the highlights from the article, so things that I highlighted in the article. And when I click export, it prepares in drafts a markdown draft with the title, the name of the author, a link to the source, and all of the highlights as markdown block quotes, so that I can basically get a head start on linking to somebody else's article very quickly, going from something that I'm reading and highlighting in Readwise Reader into a draft in drafts. And all of that was done via JavaScript because I have and Claude because no, actually Cerebras and GLM 4.6 because I absolutely have no idea how to deal with these things with JavaScript. But now I, instead of cobbling it together with Stack Overflow, now I get to do these things like this.
Yeah, and same with me with the Python. It's the same situation.
Yeah. And lastly, I spent about a week testing all browsers again. It all started because a couple of web apps that I wanted to use didn't work in Safari. And so I thought, maybe I should go down the Chromium browser rabbit hole again. And so I tested Firefox, which is not really Chromium. Firefox, Chrome, Perplexity Comet, Edge, Atlas again, Vivaldi. And then I realized, I went back to Chrome again, and then I realized, this is making me miserable. And I just went back to Safari and decided that those two web apps that I need to use on my Mac, I'll just save them as PWAs with Google Chrome in my dock. And so those web apps are in my dock using the Chromium engine, but Safari is my browser of choice. The fact that Safari on iOS and on the iPad has a proper interface, it supports extensions. Like there's so much going for Safari on iOS right now, even beyond the fact that in the United States, not like in Europe, things are any different because of the DMA, but like even with the fact that like all browsers on iPhone and iPad need to use the WebKit engine, fine. But like the other browsers are just plain bad. They're like bad browsers. Like Chrome on the iPad is a bad web browser. Doesn't let you pin tabs, doesn't let you show the bookmarks toolbar. Like there's so much wrong with these baby browsers for iPhone and iPad. Apple is the only company taking the iPhone and iPad seriously when it comes to web browsers. Maybe Vivaldi is actually doing a decent job.
Yeah, I would say
iPhone.
that they are, but they've just got a long way.
Bad.
They just have a long way to catch up. I think they're still doing like fundamental features, but yeah, they're pretty good. I think especially on mobile, you're right. I mean, on the desktop, I think
the desktop,
Edge,
sure, yeah.
Edge is okay on the desktop. I'm not a fan of Chrome myself, but I do use it from time to time.
And also, like in my test, Safari was faster than Chrome on macOS. I did a bunch of benchmarks, like speedometer, like those things. I don't know how they're called. Safari was faster. And I have a whole bunch of extensions installed even. And I don't know, but like on the iPhone and iPad specifically, Apple is the only company that is taking those devices and those users seriously. Instead of giving you like a companion browser or a lightweight browser, which is something that in 2025 I honestly cannot stand anymore. They're treating these devices like, oh, you want to use an iPhone to browse the web? That's cute. No, I just want to have a browser. I just want to have a serious browser. On my iPad Pro that I paid 2,000 euros for, I want to have a proper browser with windows, with tabs, with toolbars. Like imagine this idea, a toolbar. These companies are so frustrating to follow. And so yes, Safari is the only good browser. That's my take. That's the hill I'm willing to die on today. Safari is the only good browser.
Any app that says that even hints that it's a companion app in the title,
nope.
I don't go anywhere near
Go in the punishment box in the corner. Go away.
Yep.
Nope. Not for me. In 2025, if you're still emailing me about your companion app on the iPhone, don't. Honestly, don't. And that includes Apple. When they were making those companion apps, remember when they were making Logic Remote for the iPad? They
still have that. That still exists.
Come on.
That still exists.
Come on.
I know. I hear you.
Companion apps. Ugh. Companion app.
That's a good way. That's a good way to end the show, Federico.
Yeah.
I can think of one companion app that is a companion app because it has to be a companion app, which is Raycast.
Yes, I was going to say that, but they're making the best out of the situation.
They're making the best of a bad situation. Yes, they are. They and I think it's smart because they'll be ready if it ever opens up to do more. And
that
that's,
is
I
a
think,
good
probably.
And actually, Raycast on iOS and iPadOS is like a completely different app. They've been very smart because they're syncing your data, the things that make sense, like your snippets, your quick links, but they're doing things they're taking advantage of the iOS platform with like the keyboard that they have now for dictation. That's a way to make a companion app, not to say, oh, we cannot make a toolbar on the iPad. That is like false. It's a false statement. I'm sorry. Absolutely. This is my rant for today. Companion apps.
All right. Well, I'm glad we finished with a rant, Federico.
Yeah.
It's always fun. Always fun. Well, hey, folks, you can visit us on MacStories.net anytime or Club MacStories. Which is club.macstories.net. We've got all kinds of stuff going over there as well. And people are in the club right now nominating the MacStories Selects Reader's Choice Award. And then the Club Plus and Club Premier members are going to actually do the voting on those nominees. So we'll be announcing those things in December. Want to thank everybody for joining us. And of course, you can find me and Federico over at MacStories. And Federico is on social media where he is at Ticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHEES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.